Welcome to Central. We're so glad you're here with us today. We're going to sing a few songs. Why don't you stand, sing with us. My eyes are open when I encounter you. You're speaking purpose in everything I do. You are revealing who you've made me to be. I hear you calling to give your love away. My heart responding with every step in faith. You give me passion, the fire's burning in me. There's no better way to live every day. Following after you, changed by your power, free in your love. Living this life for you. My eyes are open when I encounter you. You're speaking purpose in everything I do. You are revealing who you've made me to be. I hear you calling to give your love away. My heart responding with every step in faith. You give me passion, the fire's burning in me. There's no better way to live every day. Following after you, changed by your power, free in your love. Living this life for you. There's no better way to live every day. Following after you, changed by your power, free in your love. Living this life for you. Let's get our hands up, everybody. Your ways are higher. Your ways are higher. Your ways are true. Your love's a roadmap leading me to you. Your ways are higher. Your ways are true. Your love's a roadmap leading me to you. There's no better way to live every day. Following after you, changed by your power, free in your love. Living this life for you. There's no better way to live every day. Following after you, changed by your power, free in your love. Living this life for you. Living this life for Sing it with me. This is the day. This is the day that you have made. Whatever comes, I won't complain. For all my hope is in your name. And now your joy awaits my praise. I give thanks for all you have done. And I will sing of your mercy and your love. Your love is unfailing. Lord, I am grateful. So grateful. When I was set my feet on higher ground. So here I stand, you are my God, your faithfulness, my solid rock. Come on, sing it out. I give thanks for all you have done, and I will sing of your mercy and your love. Your love is unfailing, Lord, I am grateful. I give thanks for all you have done. I won't forget all the battles you have won. Your love is unfailing, Lord, I am grateful. Oh yes, we are.
Oh yes, I am.
And as we lift our hands, the heavens open, heavens open. So let our lives declare the love our God has spoken over us. And as we lift our hands, the heavens open, heavens open. So let our lives declare the love our God has spoken over us. Sing it, we give thanks. I give thanks for all you have done, and I will sing of your mercy and your love. Your love is unfailing, Lord, I am grateful. I give thanks for all you have done. I won't forget all the battles you have won. Your love is unfailing, Lord, I am grateful. Yes, I am. I'm grateful for you
Yes, Lord, I am grateful.
and your love for us today and every day.
Oh God, for what you've already done. Oh, we thank you. Oh God, we thank you for what you've already done in our lives. You've carried us through and what you will do, God. We thank you even for what you will do, even when we can't see it. Oh, I need more of you. All who come to you are welcome. All are equal in your eyes. There's no secret to our Savior. He is always inside. In the presence of you, Jesus, I'm aware of who you are. You are gracious, you are holy. I'm depending on you, Jesus. I receive your perfect love. Come and change me on the inside. Make me more like you. Like you. I can't make it on my own strength. I am desperate for you. I surrender to your spirit. I find fullness in you. In the presence of your Jesus, I'm aware of who you are. You are gracious, you are holy. I'm depending on you, Jesus. I receive your perfect love. Come and change me on the inside. Make me more like you. Jesus, make me more like you. Oh yes, Jesus. Oh Jesus. Oh yeah. The more I see of you, the more I want you. The more I know of you, the more I need. The more I see of you, the more I want you. The more I know of you, the more I need. The more I see of you, the more I want you. The more I know of you, the more I need. Yes, the more I see of you, the more I want you. The more I know of you, the more I need. More I from what I see, I wanna know. From what I see, I wanna know you. Oh God. The more I see of you, the more I want you. The more I know of you, the more I need. The more I see of you, the more I want you. The more I know of you, the more I need. More of you, Jesus. Oh, coming unexpectedly into my life, into my heart, oh God. Oh, 'cause the more I know of you, changes my life. You change my life. Oh yes, you've changed my life. Yes. With all the hope you bring, with all the hope you bring in this hopeless world. Oh God. Are you weary? Are you heavy burdened? Come to me, come to Jesus, 'cause I am life, and I can be your oasis. Jesus, we come to you, 'cause you are more than enough for what is going on in our own lives and our hearts, God. We need more of you today. That is our simple prayer. As a city, it's been a bit of a heavy week. We've lost couple people who didn't have hope, and some of you I know are connected to these people. It's been heavy. And that verse that I just shared with you is the verse of the day, and I really felt like I should say it. Are you weary? Are you heavy burdened? Are you carrying a heavy burden? Then come to Jesus, because He is life. And we need more of Him. I need more of Him every day for the challenges that are about to come my way that I don't even know about. I need more of Him. And yes, I'm grateful for him carrying me through to today, but I need so much more of him for tomorrow. So I hope that is your prayer. If it's not your prayer, I hope that it becomes your prayer, because this world needs so much hope, so much more hope. So Jesus, that is our prayer today, that you would be more in us so that we could be more to this world. Amen. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for singing with us. I'm going to invite you to grab a seat as we continue.
Well, hello, good afternoon, and welcome to Central at 12. It is so good to see all your faces. Welcome, welcome, especially if this is your very first time, a special welcome to you. Thanks so much for coming out and joining us at the 12 o'clock at Central. Those of you tuning in online, thank you so much for making time to be with us wherever you are on this planet. So good that you have joined us. Well, like I said, if this is your first time, do want to extend a special welcome to you. We actually have a gift for you, just an extra way of saying thanks for making time to be with us today. And how you can receive that gift is by filling out the Connect card. It's in the seat back in front of you. Just take a second sometime during the experience, fill that out, and then head to Central Connect. It is the big blue wall in the lobby. You cannot miss it. Someone would love to exchange that card for a gift and just say a personal welcome, shake your hand. Yeah, thanks so much for making time to be with us. Those of you who are joining us for the first time online, we have a gift for you too. So feel free to click the New Here button, follow the prompts, and we can put a gift in your hands as well. I always like to remind myself and even tell you if you're new, here at Central, we're really driven by these two pillars, and the first is to introduce you to faith, introduce people to faith. We believe that a life well lived, a life that is full, a life that is just incredible is based on having faith in Jesus. And so the first thing we strive to do is introduce people to faith, and the second is to help you grow in your faith, knowing that the only way you can live a life that we're supposed to live is as we're growing in this faith and understanding of who God is. And so definitely hope you sense that, you feel that as we're together this afternoon. Fantastic. Well, hey, we're going to be continuing on in our experience by giving. And so we're going to invite the host forward. As we do that, there's something that we do as a Central family. So if you're brand new, feel no obligation to give at all. Just let that plate pass you by. Maybe you can even take a second, start to fill out that Connect card. But for those of you who are part of Central, we have a bunch of options for you to give on the screen. So you do what works best for you. Fantastic. Well, as the plates are being passed, just two things I want to let you know about, two things to keep top of mind. The first one is baptisms. We have baptisms happening on November the 25th. It's going to be amazing. Anytime we have baptisms at Central, it is so incredible to see people expressing outwardly this faith that they have. And so if you are a Christ follower, if you're a follower of Jesus and you've never been baptized, this is a great opportunity to do that, November the 25th. Now we start registration for that next week, so feel free to head to Central Connect next week and you can get more information or just register. Also, you can register by emailing baptism@centralcc.ca. Really looking forward to that, November the 25th. It's gonna be incredible. And then the second thing, we have a really vibrant and growing online community. Like outside of what happens here on a Sunday, with us here, the folks who are watching right now live, and people who sort of go and catch up on messages that are maybe you missed a Sunday and you want to catch up and that sort of thing. We have those available at centralcc.ca/watch. So the online community, not only there, but also on YouTube. We have content that's being uploaded all the time. So maybe you're on YouTube and you, whoever you watch, I don't know, Logan Paul maybe, I don't know. If you're watching some sort of content on YouTube, Central has some great stuff on there as well. Videos from the messages and music as well, and little pieces that are all put there so that we can do those two things I mentioned a few seconds ago, which is introduce people to faith and help us grow in our faith. And so encourage you to subscribe on YouTube if you're on YouTube, or head to centralcc.ca/watch to catch up on all of the messages. Awesome. Well, those are the two things to keep top of mind. Right now, I'm going to urge you to turn your attention to the screen as we continue on in week 2 of our series called Created to Be.
What if I told you that you were just one decision away from a breakthrough? What if I told you that you were just one decision from experiencing the breakthrough that you desperately need in your life? Would it change your perspective? Would it change how you saw today? Would it change the decisions that you make? I think it would. And so today, I just feel like there is somebody here, maybe somebody watching online, who desperately needs to hear what I'm about to say. I have this sense, and I've had it all day, that there's somebody here and you've experienced a really hard setback. A circumstance in life that you didn't ask for that was really unfair. Maybe a relationship that's being strained right now. Maybe a financial obligation that's crushing you. Maybe a personal battle in your mind. And you're wondering if it's worth going on. I just want you to know that there's something deep inside of me, and this deep inside of me is just don't quit. Don't quit. Don't give up. You're worth too much. That's what I really want to talk to you about today, that you are actually just one decision away from a breakthrough. And here's what I've learned about life and about human behavior. I think sometimes we underestimate the power of our choices and we overestimate the limitation of our circumstance. Here's what I've learned. We underestimate the power of our decisions. We think we're really kind of a victim, that really we just are the result of everything that has happened to us, and so we react. We make decisions in response to our circumstances. We are reactive instead of being proactive. We don't realize that we actually have power to make good decisions, even if our circumstance is not good. And I think we overestimate the limitation of our circumstance. We become defined by something that happened in our past, something that was done to us, or something that we did, or something that was said about us, or something we believe. And so when we do this, we get it all mixed up. And so we allow our decisions to be dictated by our circumstance rather than allowing our decisions to impact our circumstance. Let me explain it to you this way, okay? Tomorrow morning, you wake up and you go for your morning coffee. I mean, really, are there a few things in life better than your first morning coffee? I mean, that's one of the best things of every day. And so you go get your morning coffee and you're in a bit of a rush. So you go through drive-through and you're driving and you're late, so you're driving with your coffee in one hand and the other, and some jerk, like out of nowhere, cuts you off. So you have to swerve to save your life, and in the process, you spill your coffee all over your lap, okay? Already going bad, right? So now you're a little bit upset, you're a little bit burnt in a tender area, and so you go to work. And you go there, and the person who was supposed to give you that report first thing in the morning not only doesn't have the report, they show up late. So you already are ticked off. So you let them know exactly how you feel about the situation. So your boss calls you up and says, I need to see you in my office. And so you go in and your boss reprimands you for ripping into your worker who was supposed to get the report done and says, as a matter of fact, we just want you to know that this is going on your record and it's a warning. Now your mind is flaming. You are so livid. You go home and you kick your cat. Now, I'm not recommending that. It's not good therapy, but that's what you do. And your 4-year-old daughter watches you do this. She is traumatized. She is screaming. Your wife now is furious at you, and she kicks you out of the house. So you're wandering the streets, wondering where you're going to stay that night, when you happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time and get caught up in a drug bust. And you get arrested, you're fingerprinted, you're in jail. All because you spilled a coffee. Okay, maybe that's a bit extreme. But you get my point. When you let your circumstances define your decisions, human nature often makes poor decisions in reaction. But when you can actually make the decision to change your behavior despite the circumstance, you actually have the power to change the circumstance. It's what the Bible actually teaches us. The Bible says that you were actually created with purpose and power. That you were not designed to be a victim. That you were not created with limitation. But we in this world have allowed the circumstances of life to manage and dictate to us who we are. And so into that, God steps in and reminds us who we were created to be. The analogy that I used last week, and I'm going to use it again, is of a gyroscope. Now, if you've never seen one of these things, they're really, really cool. When I was a kid, I had one and I played with it all the time. And the gyroscope works on a simple principle. The principle is that if you can get momentum into a wheel, into a circle, the energy created will be driven into the center of that object and will keep it upright, even though it's top heavy. So I'm just charging it up right now. And as I do that, you may not know this, but when you fly in the air, there are dozens of gyroscopes that keep the plane oriented so it doesn't flip or tip over, which you're very thankful for at 30,000 feet. But the cool thing about this is that when I give energy to this object, this cylinder, not only will it stand, but it will also resist being reoriented. It has this amazing ability to take all the energy and the things that happen to it and drive it into a central point, and it stays upright. Now, I'm fascinated by that because I've asked myself the question, is it possible to do that with life? Is it possible to generate energy in a positive way so that no matter what comes against us, no matter what hammers us in life, we do not fall? Well, I actually believe the answer is yes. And so that's what this series is all designed around. It's designed around 8 things that I've learned in my own life through my study of the Bible and my own experience that have helped me stay upright in a world that would constantly try to push me over. And so Jordan Peterson has his 12 rules for living. Malcolm Gladwell has his 8, and I have my 8 too. So that's what we're talking about. And we learned in week number 1 that actually the first rule is that love, you have to learn to love even when it hurts. That the greatest energy, the greatest force, the greatest motivation in life is to learn what it means to truly love. And we redefine love, not the way this world talks about love as in what I get, but rather in the conscious decision to risk loving even if you never love me in return. And so we learned that until you get this foundational principle, that's what drives everything, you're going to have a hard time finding meaning and purpose because this world will hurt you. So you need to learn to love even when it hurts. And if you missed last week, you can catch up online. If you're watching online, just follow the tabs there and you can watch that as well. But here's what we're going to learn today. Rule number 2, don't quit on the things that really matter. Don't quit on the things that really matter. And this can be found in one word. It's one decision, and it's resilience. Resilience is the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties. And so if you have your Bibles, I want you to turn with me to Hebrews chapter 12. If you have a mobile device, I want you to download the YouVersion app or open it up and go to Hebrews chapter 12. And the reason I want you to do that is because I'm hoping that this week you'll read this passage every day as a source of encouragement and strength to be resilient. And so the book of Hebrews was written to a group of people who were going through a really hard time. As a matter of fact, they were being persecuted because of what they believed, because of their convictions. And they're trying to stand strong, but many of them were thinking about giving up. They've lost their jobs. They had lost family members. Actually, some of them were in threat of losing their lives. And so the author of Hebrews writes to a group of normal people just like you and I, people who sometimes struggle with the challenges of this life, that life can sometimes be overwhelming, crushing. You know what it's like to be in that place where the pressure is so great you have a hard time breathing. You have a hard time sleeping. It's costing you a lot. How do you respond? How do you survive when everything around you is pressing in against you? That's what this chapter is all about. And so in Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1, he begins by saying, therefore. Now, you've heard me say this before, but whenever you read therefore in the Bible, you need to know what it's there for. And therefore is a reflection back on Hebrews chapter 11. And if you read Hebrews chapter 11, it's about normal people like you and I who became great heroes of faith because they were resilient, because they chose to do the right thing even when everything around them was wrong. Now, if you think the Bible and the heroes in the Bible are perfect stained glass figures, you haven't read it. They are dysfunctional. They make a lot of mistakes. They fail often. But what keeps them straight and keeps them centered is the reality that they believe in this principle, that God actually works all things together for good. They not only believe it, they live it. And they trust it, and because of it, they're resilient. And so he writes this group of people who are feeling overwhelmed by life, and he says, listen, people just like you have done this, have survived. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, he uses this great analogy of the Olympic amphitheater or the Olympic stadium, where runners would come and compete, and people, spectators, only men, and we'll explain why in a minute, only men would come and watch these competitions. And he said, listen, in the stands of life are many heroes. You can look to them and see, and one of the greatest qualities of these heroes was their resilience, their refusal to let the circumstances of life dictate their choices. And think about it, isn't that true? The people who we admire the most are those who refuse to let their life circumstance define them, but rather they redefine their life circumstance by the choices they make. This is what resilience is really all about. He says, therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, if you want to be resilient, if you want to overcome, be victorious, even in the face of defeat, the first thing you need to understand is who you really are. You need to know who you really are. When I was in high school, my mom had this dream for me. And I love my mom. I mean, she is one of my heroes. But my mom had this dream of me being a saxophone player. Now, if you've ever heard a saxophone played well, you can understand this dream. I mean, it is a beautiful instrument. It is soothing. It is powerful. But if you've ever heard it played not so well, you'll also know it could be a great source of pain. There's a lot of screeching and squawking that goes on when you try to figure out this new instrument. And so that was me. It was kind of like fingernails on a chalkboard. That's kind of the sound I was able to create. But she had this vision, and so I promised. I signed up for my high school orchestra, which is so funny because I was so bad. And anyway, I took this saxophone home, and I'm trying to get the reed moist enough and get my mouth, shaped right to make the right sounds, and my fingers on these buttons, and it just was not going well. I'm not going to lie. But I had this one song that I had to learn because I was in the beginner's orchestra, and I had to learn this one song, and it was very simple. So I did my best, and I remember, though, the moment I got to be a part of the orchestra. And I'm going to admit, there was something really powerful about that moment, about being a part of something bigger than myself. And even though the sound wasn't perfect, there was something really energizing about realizing that I had a part and I was a part of something bigger. Maybe not all the moms and dads who always tell you you're great because they have to, but there was really something beautiful, and you've experienced that if you've ever been a part of a team. Whether it was an athletic team or a music team of some kind or a great cause. You know the power of being a part of something bigger than yourself. And you need to know something, okay? And maybe you've never been told this, but I'm going to tell you the truth. This world needs you. This world needs you. No matter how you came into this world, and no matter what the world has thrown at you, and no matter what people have said about you or what you believe about yourself, this world desperately needs you, needs the unique gifts and talents that only you possess. And this world is not complete until you understand your part and you're playing it. Even if you're the guy in the orchestra who has the cymbals, right? And you have to wait 3 hours till the final sound and then you clash them and that's your only part. I would love that job. But it doesn't matter when you understand who you are and you were created. You were created with the power and the potential to make decisions that impact generations. Let me prove it to you this way. I want you to think about your life. And I want you to think about the people in your life who've impacted you. I want you to think about those moments. Maybe it was something they said or something they did, or maybe they were just present at a time when you desperately needed them. I think if you're honest and you look back at those moments, some of those people probably even have no clue how big of an impact they had on you. Maybe it was a teacher, maybe it was a friend, maybe it was a parent. But that moment that they were there and they said that thing, it impacted you in a positive way. That's the power of purpose. You see, I don't think the purpose of life is to make a lot of money, because money doesn't last beyond you. I don't think the purpose of life was to climb the corporate ladder or to have some nameplate on your door. Those are all okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But I don't think that's the purpose of life. I think the purpose of life is to leave something that lives on in the people behind you, and leaving a legacy for generations. And that's what this great cloud of witnesses did. They knew what really mattered, and so they gave their lives for it. And so he goes on to say, so since this happens, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles. Now, this is kind of the fun part of the story, because in ancient Greece, when they ran, they didn't have spandex shorts. They weren't invented yet. And they've discovered that it's really hard to run in a toga. If you don't believe me, just go home, get a bed sheet, wrap it around yourself, and try to run around the block. You'll probably get arrested, but it would be worth the experiment anyway. You can't run in a toga. So they would literally take it off, all of it. And so that's why only men went to these events, which is weird anyway. But anyway, so they'd run with nothing hindering them. And he uses this analogy to explain that there are things that will hold you back from purpose. There are things that will trip you up if you don't get rid of them. Sometimes it's an attitude. Sometimes it's an excuse. Sometimes it's a relationship. Sometimes it's a situation or a circumstance. It's a habit. It's a mindset. There are these things that hold you back. And it's interesting that the word sin here in the Greek is the Greek word hamartia, which means simply to miss the mark. See, I think we've twisted the meaning of this word sin. We think of sin as something bad you do, and yes, it can be that. But it's actually at its deeper root anything that keeps you from who you were created to be. It's not about what someone else does. It's about what you do to be who God created you to be. And so he says you got to throw off all of these things that hold you back. The Boston Marathon is an internationally renowned race. And if you've ever run a marathon, you'll know that there comes a time in the race where you feel like quitting. If you've run a race, of any kind of distance, what happens usually is first your body starts to hurt. Okay, so your muscles start to tighten, blood gets, you get sore, and your body is like hurting. And then your brain kicks in, and your brain begins to justify and rationalize why you should stop, right? It says, hey, this is way too hard. you've done really well. You've run half of the marathon. That's good enough for this time. Maybe next time. And so the greatest battle actually in a marathon is mental. Actually, in most athletics, it's mental. But 20 miles into the Boston Marathon is a hill. It's called Heartbreak Hill. And the reason it's called Heartbreak Hill is because about 20 miles, your body is screaming at you, and all you want to do is quit. And so they call it Heartbreak Hill because many people quit when they hit that hill, that obstacle that seems insurmountable, and they never finish the race. I heard about a story about a guy, and he'd run multiple times in the Boston Marathon, and he'd never finished the race. And then finally he finished it one year, and so they were asking him, like, what was the difference? What changed for you? How did you go from someone who always quit to someone who actually finished the race? Was it training? Was it diet? What was it? And he said, I convinced myself that when it got hard, I would simply say 2 words. Not today. I'm not going to quit today. Not today. You may have gotten me in the past, but today I'm going to run this race. I'm going to persevere. Not today. And if you want to be resilient, and if you want to live a life of meaning and purpose, you've got to learn these 2 words. When you wake up tomorrow morning and you look in the mirror and the mirror says you can't do it, you tell that lie, not today. You will not win today. When that attitude creeps up in your life that's ugly and you say, no, not today. When it's hard to love that little orangutan you call your child, you said you want to just punish. You say, no, not today. When grumpy rolls over as he's rolled over for 18 years and wants to be grumpy, not today. I am going to overcome by my attitude and my mindset. I will not let this hinder my choices, my decisions, my happiness. Not today. So what do you need to speak to in your life? What thing that's holding you back do you need to say, you know what, not today? No, you don't win today. Lie, you don't win today. Bad attitude, you don't win today. Overwhelming circumstance, you don't win today. Not today. Today I'm going to finish the race that I set out to finish. Today. That's resilience. And so he says, throw off everything that hinders. Refuse to let anything hold you back. And then he continues and he says, and let us run with perseverance the race that has been marked out for us. See, I think there's this myth that you have to kind of try to figure life out blindly, like you're flying in a storm and you have no hope of knowing your orientation, and that just is not true. Just like in an airplane, there's instrumentation, there's gyroscopes that tell you exactly where you are. In the same way with life, there's a way of knowing exactly where you are and where you should be. We sang it in one of our songs, that your word is a roadmap, your love is a roadmap, leading us back to you, that we are equipped. That if you don't know what to do, then you need to ask, and you need to ask the right source in order to find your freedom. And so he says, let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. Fixing our eyes on Jesus. How do we stay centered? Well, I want you just to consider the possibility. For many of you, this will be a no-brainer, but for some of you, this will be a new concept. But I want you to explore the possibility that Jesus is the perfect example of how to live a life of meaning. I want you just to explore this concept that maybe if there was a perfect human being, that Jesus was the one, and he came to not only tell us how to live it, but to show us how to live it. And so he says, you're not running blindly, that there's actually someone who's done it before who will coach you and lead you and guide you. He's the pioneer and perfecter of faith. And how do we know that? How do we know what resilience is? Well, it explains it here. It says, for the joy set before him, endured the cross. I don't know if you've seen The Passion of the Christ. I'm not sure I would put joy as an emotion appropriate for that movie. And yet the Bible says that Jesus, for the joy set before him, endured the cross, scorning its shame, and he sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. How did he do that? How do you anticipate something like the cross with joy? The only way you do it is if you have a perspective that's bigger than your current circumstance. If you make the decision that today I see something bigger, because I think Jesus saw the victory through the pain. See, this word endurance in the Greek is two words. It's hupomeno. Hupo means under and meno means patient. It means to wait patiently under. And it doesn't make a lot of sense to us because our word is a negative word. Our word for patience or endurance or perseverance means you just grit your teeth and bear it. You suck it up and live through it because it focuses on the circumstance, right? So people will tell you, oh, just be patient. What they mean is just keep taking it. Just, I know life's punching in the face right now. Just be patient. It's okay. And I know it's terrible, but hang on. Hopefully it'll stop soon. And that's just not the Greek word at all. The Greek word actually focuses on the end result. It's the athlete who's running that marathon and goes, you know what, body? You're not going to win today. Mind, you're not going to win today because I know I'm going to finish this race. It sees the end of the race. The analogy that we came up with as a team was of a scrim. If you're not familiar with a scrim, it's used in productions, and it's a veil of sorts. It's translucent, so if you put light on the front of it, you can't see through it. And so often in a production, they'll use a scrim to project images on, using projectors or lights, and they can project anything on it just like you would a normal screen. But if you put light behind the scrim, suddenly you can see through it. And so often what they'll do is they'll use actors or whatever behind the scrim so that when the light is on it, you can see through the veil into what they want you to see at that time. I think this is a great analogy of the perspective you and I have been given as followers of Jesus. I think it's the perspective that Jesus had. That sometimes life is like a scrim. It's a veil, and from our perspective, all we see is what's being projected back at us. All we see is the failure, the regret, the shame. All we see is the overwhelming obstacle. But if you let God show you, Jesus said, I am the light of the world, that through even the cross, even death, there can be life on the other side. You can see through the limitation of your circumstance and see something powerful and beautiful. I think that's how you have resilience. It's only when you actually believe, God, you work all things together for good. So then I guess the question is, how do you see your life? If all you see are the limitations, if all you see are how you're a victim, if all you see are the reasons why you can't be who you are going to be, you will never be free. You will always be a slave. But if you're willing today to let God step into your life and show you a different perspective, that actually there's a purpose for your life and there's meaning, and you don't have to be defined by your past. You don't have to be defined by your mistakes. You don't have to be defined by the lies that you've heard or that you speak to yourself. That actually there's a greater future if you're willing to see it and you're willing to let God show you it. Do you know that the average Olympian trains 4 hours a day, 310 days a year, for 6 years on average before they have success? Imagine if the Olympic athlete, after a week, said, "Oh, I'm gonna be a javelin thrower at the Olympics," and so they go out and they throw a few sticks and they go, "Wow, I'm really bad," so they quit. Well, again, this is what happens with life. We do the same thing. We have a dream, we have an idea, we have a hope, and we try it once and we quit because it didn't work out. We had one setback, one hardship, one limitation. But I was thinking about this. Here's what was profound to me. If an Olympic athlete is willing to spend 4 hours a day, 310 days a year, for 6 years to realize a piece of metal that only has value to them and their friends, how much time are you committing to the things that really matter in your life? I have a dream. Really? Okay. Are you willing to spend 4 hours a day, 310 days a year for 6 years to see that dream come to pass? Oh, I want this relationship to work. Okay. Are you willing to spend 4 hours a day, 310 days a year for 6 years to make it work? Most of us don't, and it's why we never persevere. It's why we're not resilient. It's why we see shortfall. It's why we stop running at Heartbreak Hill in our life. And the only solution is to have a better perspective, that I see something on the other side of this. And so that's what Jesus saw. He saw something better. And so the author goes on to say, let us consider him who endured so that we will not, such opposition, so that we will not grow weary or lose heart. Listen, I know what it's like for life to be difficult sometimes. I know how hard life can be. I have lots of dreams and lots of ideas, but I also have lots of reasons why those things could never happen to me. I know what it's like to experience abuse. I know what it's like to be put down in a work environment consistently where you just don't think you're worth anything. You feel like a piece of garbage. I know what it's like to risk a lot financially and to lose it all. I know what it's like to lose someone very close to you that you love dearly, and there are really no good answers to why. I know what it's like to have a dream, and to have that dream questioned over and over again. 10 years ago, I had a dream for a new space, a new building. I had a dream of building a space where the Niagara region would be impacted, and 10 years later, here we are. Every week someone asks me, so are you building yet? Nope. When are you going to be built? I don't know. I don't know. So what keeps you going? What keeps you going when life is unfair, when life is hard, when you're tempted to be a victim and use your victimization as an excuse why you can't be something that God created you to be? What do you do then? I'll tell you what you do. You're resilient. You refuse to give in. Another great definition for resilience is when an object is squeezed, but it retakes its form. Like a foam ball, you crush it, but it takes back its shape. You may crush me, but you will not destroy me. You may try to limit me, but you cannot hold me down. Why? Because I was created for something. That's what keeps me going. And what keeps Carlene and I going, my beautiful wife of 27 years, in the good times and the bad times, is what keeps me going. Is I can't wait for us to celebrate our 50th wedding anniversary together. Resilience is seeing that and seeing the joy of that moment and working towards that moment. How was I resilient with my kids when they're mostly awesome, but on the few occasions they were not so awesome, or when I was not so awesome? What kept me loving them was the idea that one day they were going to have children, my grandchildren, and maybe I would even live long enough to see great-grandchildren. And I wanted those kids to feel safe in my home. And I wanted to hold my grandbabies. I wanted a relationship with them. And so it was worth it. What kept me going when we had great financial loss was the belief that I'm not defined by my failure. I learned from it, and God's going to turn this into something better, and he did. What keeps me going with this dream of a new space that we're building, I'll tell you, what keeps me going is the hope and the truth that someone's going to go into that space and get to experience what we get to experience every week. Hear the truth that there's a God who believes in you, is cheering you on, and loves you, that you were created with purpose. You're not a mistake. That's what keeps me going. When I get unfair criticism, and it gets really hard, and I have to make tough decisions that some people aren't going to like. What keeps me going is this belief that there's a God who works all things together for good, and I have a part to play. It doesn't matter how big or how small it is. It just means I get to play it well, and when I do, I get to be a part of something bigger than myself. It's called the church. It's not a building. It's a group of people on a mission, motivated to make this world a better place. The kind of place God created it to be. The place that Jesus came in to show us what it could be like if we would truly love one another, truly care about one another. It was beautiful and it was powerful. And we're invited into it. But the only way we experience it is if we're resilient. If we refuse to give in. We refuse to be the victim. We refuse to make the excuse. We refuse. Instead, we push on to win the prize. So from this passage, 3 practical things I just want to leave with you about resilience. The first is that the cross will change your perspective because it'll remind you that there's a cause worth sacrificing for. Parents and grandparents, those children are worth it. I know it's not easy, and maybe you didn't get a fair chance when you were growing up. Maybe your growing up experience wasn't fantastic, but don't let that be an excuse for you not being a great parent. Young people, you have an opportunity to change not only your generation, but the next by believing that you can love even when you don't feel like you have been loved. That's worth sacrificing for. For those who have no voice in our world, who are being mistreated and abused through no fault of their own, they have the right to a voice. And if you could be the voice, that's worth sacrificing for. What is the ultimate? To see people be who they were called to be, to lift people up. It's worth sacrificing for. It really is. Second, you need to take responsibility. I began by explaining that a lot of people underestimate the power of their decisions and overestimate the limitation of their circumstance. And what I mean by that is that you actually can take responsibility. I actually believe that you can change your circumstance. And you change your circumstance by allowing yourself to be changed with this incredible truth that there's a God who works all things together for good. When you actually believe that and live it, it changes everything around you. Take responsibility. Don't be a victim. Don't let anyone help you be a victim. Be an overcomer. And third, good can come even from evil. For Jesus was crucified on that cross. But on the third day, he rose again, proving that even the things in our life that seem dead, even the things in our life that seem completely lost, can be resurrected. That on the other side of the grave is life, on the other side of death. And that's literal, but it's also metaphorical. The things that have died in your life. If you believe in a God and you're willing to be resilient, push on and persevere, not in blind hope, but in trust that there's a God who is good, it'll bring you amazing freedom. So you want a life of meaning, of purpose? Well, first, learn to love well, even when it hurts. It's the only way to find meaning and purpose in life. Loving is the only hope we've got. And second, learn to be resilient, to refuse to give in. And so I know that I just want to close by talking to someone personally, and I don't know who you are. I don't know if he's watching online or here in person, but I can't shake this feeling that I need to talk to you. And maybe it's only for one, maybe it's for all, I don't know, but you came into this place today and you're incredibly discouraged. You're discouraged by the setbacks in your life and you feel like you want to quit. Maybe like me, you're just thinking, man, it would be just great to move to Hawaii and surf all day. Right now, you're just thinking that if I could just get away from it all, but you can't. You can't run away, you're stuck. Or maybe you're here and you're just overwhelmed by a situation and you've allowed a lie to become so big, a past mistake to overwhelm and crush you. Could you just hear the truth that we need you? That your life has value and meaning and purpose. You may not know it yet, but we want to help you find it. That we need you. This world needs you. So please don't quit. Please don't give up. Please don't give in. Keep fighting. It's worth it. It matters. You matter. So we'll wake up tomorrow with a new understanding and a realization that yes, sometimes life is unfair, but you don't have to let that define you. That you can redefine your life by making one decision. And what is that one decision? To believe that God created you to be resilient. God, I just know I'm speaking to some people in this space, and I don't know their name and I don't know their story necessarily, but you do. And I know even right now, There's thoughts racing through their head. They're trying to process all that they have heard. Maybe all of their life they have experienced nothing but pain and misery. Maybe all of their life they've been told a lie that they're worthless, and they've actually begun to believe it. God, maybe there are people in this space who have believed that the dream is dead, that the relationship is over, that they can never rebound from this setback. But God, I ask in the mighty and powerful name of Jesus for the truth to be revealed. God, that we do not need to be defined by our circumstance. We can be defined by our Creator. And you said that we were created in your image, that we have purpose and meaning, that no matter what has happened to us, we do not need to let our past define our future, that you'll give us a new name, a new future, a new hope. So I pray that you'd help us to lean into that deeply today. In Jesus' name, amen. So if you're here today and you need someone to talk to, there's a couple of options for you today. If you're here live, there'll be a prayer team that would love to meet with you, and just maybe for you that's a big stretch, but there's something really powerful about getting out of your comfort zone, breaking free from the lie, even talking to a stranger who can speak truth to you and say, listen, there's something great in you. And we'll be happy to pray with you. If you're watching online, just interact with our online pastor. But maybe you're here and this is really important. Maybe you're wondering if it's even worth living. Please, please, don't leave this place believing that lie. And if you do need help, there's a line that you can call here. You can email us. You can talk to someone at the Blue Wall. Please just know that you're not alone. That you're not alone. That this world needs you. And we're here for you if we can be. So please believe the truth today. And so I bless you. I bless you with the truth that life isn't always fair. And I'm terribly sorry for that. I wish it was. And I know that life can be filled with pain. And I know that life can throw curveballs and at you that you don't think you're going to ever recover from. But I also bless you with the truth that there's a God who is greater than any limitation. The same God who raises Jesus from the dead is alive to raise your dead thing back to life. Whether it's a past mistake, a lie, a failure, whatever it is, there's a God who, if you're willing to trust him, will guide you into something better. So may you be resilient, and may you live with purpose. May you wake up tomorrow morning with a new sense of direction and who you were created to be and why you work where you work and live where you live and go to school where you go. May you wake up with this understanding that you matter and this world needs you. Don't get sucked into the vortex of the lies of this world that tell you you're not good enough or you need to be something that you're not. Don't believe the lies that tell you that you'll never be better than you are and that your life is who you are. You're labeled by your mistake. Believe instead the truth that this world needs you and you were created for greatness. So trust the one who made you and live in victory. I bless you in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.